What is up, fellas? I done decided to jump back on here and do another one of these for the first time, and Jesus, it was back in March, because it was leading into UFC 209. Yeah, UFC 216 is tomorrow with Tony Ferguson and Kevin Lee. UFC Interim Lightweight Championship. Co-main events, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson and Ray Borg. You got Fabricio Verdum and Derek Lewis. My boy Lando Venata fighting on the undercard against Bobby Green. This is a pretty decent card, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm pulling big time for Lando. I'm hoping he's gonna pull that out against Bobby Green. Bobby Green's a dangerous fighter. I really don't want Lando to drop that one, because then he would be 1-3 in the UFC. He had that unbelievable performance against Tony Ferguson, and on like 1 week notice, his very first fight in the UFC, he almost upset Tony. And he came back and had the knockout of the year, spinning wheel kick on John McDessie. In his last fight, he had a brilliant fight. The fight of the night at UFC 209, actually, the last one that I did against David Tamir, and he came up short in that one, but it was an incredible fight, very high level striking battle the two guys had. And David Tamir was a professional kickboxer, I'm pretty sure. I don't have any notes or anything like that. I'm laying in bed. I just decided to do this. It's 1:45 in the morning. But I'm pretty sure David Tamir was a pro kickboxer before he came over to MMA. And I'm pretty sure Lando was a wrestler. And he has only been practicing striking with Brandon Gibson, who's one of the coaches at Jackson Winklejohn. He's only been training striking with him for maybe about 5 years now. And he's already got that level of striking. He's awesome, man. I'm hoping he can pull it out. I'm hoping he can pull it out against Bobby Green. Bobby Green's a tough guy. He's got a win against former Strikeforce lightweight champion Josh Thompson. He's a good dude, man. He's a good fighter. I'm hoping Lando can pull that one out. Other fights on the card, like I mentioned, Derek Lewis and Fabricio Verdum. That one's going to be tough for Derek. In the first 5 minutes, the first round, Derek Lewis is as dangerous of a heavyweight as you're going to find. I mean, he hits like a Mack truck. And Fabricio's 40 years old now. So, I mean, that could one big bomb, he could end Fabricio's night. Fabricio doesn't quite have the chin that he used to. He's been, he got slept way back in the day by Junior Dos Santos when Junior was on his run to get the title. And I guess it would be, how many fights ago was it? In his last fight, he lost against Alistair Overeem, and kind of a lackadaisical fight. And first 2 rounds, absolutely jack crap happened, and then in the 3rd round, Fabricio dropped Alistair. But it was too little too late. The judges gave Alistair the first and second round, which, I mean, it could have went either way. The fight was really, not a whole lot happened until that 3rd round, but all 3 judges gave Alistair the first 2, so he lost that one. The fight before that, he beat Travis Brown. So it was the fight before that, he got knocked out by Stipe Miocic when he lost the title. He was the heavyweight champion. He got slept in the first round. So, I mean, he can get knocked out, and Derek can do it, man. He can put anybody in the world to sleep if he lands a bomb on him. So, but I like Derek. In my heart, I'm pulling for Derek. I'm hoping he can land one of those and get him a win and get back on track. He lost his last fight against Mark Hunt. But my heart, I'm pulling for Derek. But in my mind, I tell myself, with Fabricio's Muay Thai skills that he has, along with possibly being the best heavyweight jiu-jitsu artist of all time, if he can get out of those first 5 minutes, which I think he more than likely probably will, I see him taking this fight, to be honest with you. If the fight hits the floor, it's probably going to be over. But if Fabricio don't have the best takedowns, usually he lets people start trying to bomb on him and he drops as if he's hurt. He'll go to his back and usually get you to try to attack him. That's the way he beat Fedor. He was the first person to ever score a legitimate victory over Fedor. Fight, I don't even know if it lasted 2 minutes. He let Fedor unload on him. He went to his back. Fedor charged in, caught him in a triangle, got his arm, and had a triangle and an armbar going at the same time, and got that win. But if he can get this fight to the ground, it's pretty much all she wrote. But as long as it's on the feet, it's going to be somewhat interesting. I'm interested to see how that one goes. If I had to make an actual pick on that one, I'd probably say you're going to see Fabricio win by a decision. If it stays on the feet, if it hits the ground, it's going to be over. Fabricio will submit him, no questions, I don't think. Fabricio has submitted Big Nog, who was thought of probably to be the best heavyweight jiu-jitsu artist of all time, and Fabricio said, "Oh, really? Why don't you go ahead and eat this armbar?" I'm pretty sure that's what he tapped him with, just off the top of my head. I think he armbarred him. And then next fight, got Mighty Mouse and Ray Borg. They were supposed to fight it, and they were supposed to be the main event of UFC 215. Ray Borg got a viral infection like the day before the fight. They pulled it, and they got rescheduled for 216. They're the co-main event of this one. Mighty Mouse wins. He'll set the record for most title defenses of all time with 11. I'm hoping he can do it, man. I'm really hoping he does. Mighty Mouse is in my top 5 favorite fighters. It's Cowboy Cerrone, Mighty Mouse, TJ Dillashaw, and probably Lando Venata. I'm pulling for Mighty Mouse big here, man. I'm hoping he can pull it out. I think it'll be his 11th. Yeah, that's right. His 11th overall title defense, which would break Anderson Silva's record of 10. And then who knows where he goes from there, if he goes up to 135 and tries to do a super fight with someone, or he's possibly talked about never moving up and just defending the belt as many times as he possibly can and setting the record so high that it can never be touched. But he's got to get past Ray Borg first. Ray is good. Ray is a very good fighter. He's kind of average on the feet, but he's kind of average on the feet, but oh wow, I didn't realize that happened. I'm watching Tony Ferguson and Josh Thompson fight on UFC Fight Pass right now. It's just had a really weird sequence where Tony had him rocked and almost finished him, and Herb Dean stopped them in the position they were in and moved them back into the middle of the cage. I really didn't see what happened. He told Tony he wasn't taking a point, but he was taking his position. But anyway, back to what I was talking about with Mighty Mouse and Ray Borg. Ray's good. He's kind of average stand-up, but he has good takedowns, and he's very good at working in the transitions. That's where he gets his good takedowns from. And the only problem is that Mighty Mouse might be the best in the world at working in transitions. Mighty Mouse is unbelievable in transition. So you have a guy who's might be quite possibly the best person in the world working in transitions, and a guy who's very good at working in transitions. So it should be very fun and entertaining to see when it gets into those transition periods, when they're transitioning from the strike into the clinch to the takedown, and so on and so forth. So far, nobody's been able to stay with Mighty Mouse in those situations, but I've seen a lot of people. I listen to just more MMA podcasts than I know how to count. It's ridiculous how much time I spend listening to other people talk about MMA and giving their thoughts and so on and so forth. But I've seen a lot of people say they think that DJ finishes him, some by strike, some by submission, and I've seen a few people say they think it goes the whole 5 rounds. I'm not really sure. A part of me thinks they're gonna spend enough time on the ground that DJ might be able to submit him. I mean, he submitted Wilson Hayes in his last title defense. Wilson's a unbelievable Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and Mighty Mouse just beat him up on the feet, finally shot for a takedown, got it, beat him up a little bit, got the full mount and armbarred him. First person to ever submit him. I could possibly see this going that way. I'm not sure though. I think I'm possibly going to predict, Mighty Mouse to finish him. But if it went to a decision, it would not surprise me. I'm pulling for him hard, man. Like I said, Ray's pretty damn good, but the best person that Ray has beat so far, he beat my mind's going blank on the guy's first name, Formiga, the Mexican guy, Cat. I think he was ranked like 4th in the world when Borg beat him. Formiga just fought on the UFC Japan card just a couple weeks ago. That might have actually been last weekend. But Borg beat him. I think that was Borg's last fight. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I think it is. I don't have a laptop or anything sitting in front of me to check. I'm using my cell phone to record this, so I'm just going to go with off the top of my head, and I'm pretty sure that it was Formiga was the last person he fought, which that was several months ago. But yeah, enough with that. We're going to go, I'm going to say Mighty Mouse by submission, but if, in maybe the 3rd, 4th round, but if it went all 5, it wouldn't surprise me. But the main event, Tony Ferguson and Kevin Lee. Tony Ferguson might be the best lightweight in the world, and that's even with Conor McGregor being in the lightweight division. And that's actually a pretty big compliment coming from me because I'm a Khabib guy. But at the same time, I'm not very happy with Khabib right now. He was supposed to fight Tony at 209. I was more excited for that fight than any fight in years. I think I said on one of these that I did, maybe it'd been the last one because it was leading into 209. I don't remember when a fight has been made in recent memory where it was any more clear that the number 1 and number 2 guys in the world in their weight division were going to fight each other, and that's what you were going to get with that. And Khabib couldn't make weight and almost died and had to go to the damn hospital, liver shut down. And then he took this incredible long time off. That's all the way been back to March, and they've offered him the fight against Tony and again. And he told him no. He's like, I'm gonna need to wait till November, I think is what I heard, that he wanted. put us on that Madison Square Garden card, and they were like, well, we kind of need somebody for the main event of 216, and I don't remember if they only offered him the 216 main event or if they were offered 217. No, what I think I heard on one of the podcasts this week was they were actually offered, Khabib was offered the fight to fight Tony at 217 in Madison Square Garden, in November. And he turned it down again and said no, that he was going to need till December. So I don't know what his deal is right now. He's kind of pissed me off. And I'm a fan of him, but yeah, Tony might be the best lightweight in the world, man. The thing is with Tony, he's above average in everything. He has above average stand up, but he's a little wild and aggressive. But I mean, his stand up is above average. Takedowns not unbelievable, but I would say above average. And the part that he has three things that he excels in my opinion. He has unbelievable jiu-jitsu. Trains with Eddie Bravo, 10th Planet jiu-jitsu guy. His jiu-jitsu's top notch, man. He probably has the best Darce chokes in all of MMA. I mean, his arms are long and lanky, and he locks those things in, and before you know it, you're screwed, you're stuck. But the two things that he has in his corner that almost no one else has, even better than his jiu-jitsu, which is top notch, is his cardio and his pace. Unbelievable. Like I said, I'm sitting here, I'm watching a Tony Ferguson and Josh Thompson fight right now on Fight Pass, and the pace that he has kept on Josh Thompson through this fight. There's 1 minute and 1 second left in the third round of this fight, and Tony's going for a Darce choke, and Josh's head slipped out because he's just covered in blood. Tony caught him with an elbow, I think, in the first round, and I mean, he's bleeding like a stuck hog. But the pace that he has kept on Josh throughout this entire fight has just been unbelievable. And he still looks just as fresh as he did in the first round. Is unbelievable. The most impressive one I think he's had was his last fight, because he's had so many people freaking back out on him. His last fight was against Rafael dos Anjos last year, I want to say. And they fought in Mexico City, which is like 8,000 feet above sea level. And he came in and he put a pace on Rafael like he's never seen before. And even at 8,000 feet above sea level in Mexico City, they fought 5 rounds, 25 minutes. In the last minute of the last minute of the 5th round, he was still moving exactly the same way as he was in the first minute of the first round. Unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. He put a beating on RDA. And those are his two really biggest qualities that no one else has been able to match. I mean, well, I guess supposedly early into his UFC career, Michael Johnson beat him by decision. As his only loss in the UFC, he has a 9-fight win streak right now, which is the record for the UFC lightweight division. The lightweight division has, for a long time, been without a doubt the best division in the UFC. That division is unreal. And for someone to rack up a 9-fight win streak in that division is just absolutely insane. I mean, actually, it's unreal, to be honest with you. A 9-fight win streak, that is insane in the lightweight division. But let's talk about Kevin Lee for a second. I will say straight up right now, right off the bat, I do not like Kevin Lee. I don't know what it is really. He's you hear people say all the time he really comes off like a dick until you meet him, and then you're like, okay, he's actually not that bad. Well, I've never had the opportunity to meet him and probably never will, so he just totally comes off as a dick to me. Earlier this week, it was in one of the UFC embeddeds. Like, he went and visited a bunch of kids that have cancer in the hospital, children's hospital in Las Vegas, and he was in there. He was smiling with them, laughing with them, and everything. And I mean, it was the only thing I've ever seen him do where it makes him seem like a good guy. If you ever see him ever interacting with any other fighters, he just comes off as a straight dickhead. I don't know what it is other than that makes me dislike him as much as I do, but I dislike him. But if I'm just being analytical and breaking down what he can do, he's good. I'll give him that. I will say, I think that his striking is average at best. But he has top notch. Well, I don't know if I would go all the way top notch. He has very good takedowns. And when he gets the takedown, he is very good, like almost unbelievable at controlling people on the ground and getting their back and locking in rear naked chokes. His last fight, he got Michael Chiesa's back, who is a back master. That's the only way that Michael Chiesa basically wins fights, is getting people's backs and choking them out with a rear naked choke. He did that to Michael Chiesa. He got his back and pummeled him with punches until the point of where Michael gave up his neck. He locked it in, and it was a controversial stoppage because Chiesa never tapped, and Mario Yamasaki stepped in and stopped it before he had the chance to tap out or pass out. But the choke was completely in. I mean, if he was going out sometime in the next 4 to 5 seconds without question, if he didn't tap out before that. So I think I don't take anything away from him for Mario stopping that fight the way he did, but I'm picking Tony to win this fight. And the reason is because of Tony's pace and cardio. The thing is, like, I just think that Tony is better than him everywhere. Like, Tony has better stand-up than he does, for sure. He should be able to probably take Tony down. But with Tony's jiu-jitsu game, I don't know how much he's going to be able to do to Tony whenever Tony gets down there, man. Tony's just so weird and unorthodox and so on and so forth. I don't know, man. I see Tony winning the fight and winning. I could see him handling Kevin, to be honest. I mean, I could be completely wrong about this and might just, I don't know, just be off, but I don't know. I just don't see it that way for some reason. Nobody has been able to come even close to beating Tony so far, and Kevin's best win is his last win against Michael Chiesa. Kevin's on a pretty long win streak himself, though. He's only lost twice in the UFC. I forget he lost to a Brazilian guy. I forget his name. His last name might be Santos. I'm not really sure. I don't know if I've ever even seen the fight, which is surprising to me. I could look it up on Fight Pass right here, but I want to say it was at UFC 194 when Conor McGregor fought Jose Aldo. But he lost that fight by TKO, and I want to say the first round. And then Al Iaquinta beat him in his very first fight in the UFC. But he hasn't lost since UFC 194, and they're going into 216 now. And that's a pretty, I don't remember what the exact number of his win streak is, but it's pretty high. It's more than 5. Yeah, man, I'm not sure. just to me, whenever I run through the fight in my head before seeing it, when I think about what skill sets they have, what Tony from top to bottom and Kevin from top to bottom, I see Tony winning. But the thing that gives me doubt a little about it a little bit is how much I've heard everybody else talk about how they give Kevin a very good shot in the fight. I've seen several people actually pick Kevin to win the fight, and I'm just not sure. I just don't see it, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong about picks before, several times. So, you want to talk about two weird dudes, though? Tony Ferguson is a weird guy. Always wears his sunglasses indoors and everything, so on and so forth, everywhere. He's a weird cat. He's just a weird dude. And then you got Kevin Lee, who's a complete dickhead. At least that's the way he comes off. Oh, it could be a big point today. Well, I guess it would technically be yesterday. It's 2:05 in the morning now. The weigh-ins. Kevin Lee had told Ariel Helwani on Thursday that he had 19 pounds to cut before weigh-in, which they had to weigh in yesterday morning. And Kevin Lee showed up at the very last minute of the 2-hour window to weigh in, and he missed weight. He weighed in at 156 pounds, which in a non-title fight he would be fine. But in a world title fight, you're not given an allowance of weight. You have to make championship weight, which for the weight class is 155 pounds, or whatever weight class you're fighting in. If you're fighting at bantamweight, then you have to weigh in at 135 on the dot or less. Lightweight, you have to weigh in at 155 on the dot or less. You get the point. He weighed in at 156. Well, the commission gave him 1 hour to lose the pound if the doctors cleared him to be able to lose an extra pound. And the doctors cleared him. He came back about 45 minutes later and he weighed in at 154 and a half. Now, it makes me wonder about him to begin with if he's being dead serious. If he had to lose 19 pounds in less than 24 hours, you know he was drained. And if he took him all the way to the final minute of weigh-in, then you know he almost had nothing left to give. He then had to go back and he cut another pound and a half. Well, I can only imagine how... I'm very interested to see how he recovers going into tomorrow. Because IVs are banned now through USADA, so he can't use an IV to rehydrate. He's going to have to take water in by mouth to try to rehydrate his body. I don't know, man. Just with Tony Ferguson's cardio and pace, and if you're coming in drained, that's another thing that gives me reason to doubt. But I'm going to pick Tony Ferguson for the fight. And I mean, Tony's last fight against RDA took a beating, but he took it for 25 minutes. He was able to make it from bell to bell. I guess it's possible that the fight could go 25 minutes, but just off prediction alone, I'm going to predict Tony to finish him. I'm not really sure a round. I'm going to say maybe the second round. I'm going to say he finishes him late in the second round. Tony Ferguson becomes the new interim lightweight champion and still doesn't get to fight Conor McGregor, I bet. Because I've seen other people say this too, but my thought on the matter was, if Kevin Lee wins, Conor McGregor fights Kevin Lee and unifies the belts, the lightweight title that he has and the interim title that the winner of this fight will get. Kevin Lee talks a whole bunch of trash. It's kind of cringeworthy. He tries his best to be the black version of Conor McGregor. He dresses in all kinds of weird clothes and shit. I don't get it. I don't have fashion sense like that. He dresses strange. He constantly tries to talk trash, but he's not very good at it. He basically just cusses a lot. But with Conor just being Conor, and Kevin Lee attempting to talk trash is the best that he can, I would see if Kevin wins the fight that Conor fights Kevin. Because the Nate Diaz fight is going to be there no matter what. Nate has made it pretty much clear that he's not fighting anyone unless it's Conor McGregor. They actually offered Nate Diaz a fight against Tony Ferguson for the title. I'm assuming it had to have been the interim title because they weren't going to strip the real belt from Conor. And Nate turned that down. So the Nate Diaz fight for Conor's not going anywhere. Nate's not fighting anybody. And Conor McGregor has now won 4 belts in his career. The organization he was in Europe, I forget the name of it, is King of the Cage, maybe, or something like that. He was the simultaneous, struggled with that one, the simultaneous featherweight and lightweight champion over there. He came to the UFC, won the featherweight, then became the simultaneous featherweight and lightweight champion. They stripped the featherweight title from him. He still holds the lightweight, but the 4 titles that he's won in his MMA career, he's yet to defend a single belt. So I think it would validate Conor a little more if he finally defended a belt. And if Kevin Lee wins, like I said, I think he defends it against Kevin. But if Tony wins, Tony's a weird guy. He's not very good at talking. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, Tony could very well be a bad matchup for Conor, which I don't really know, to be honest with you. I think I talked about this in one of my earlier podcasts that I did months and months and months ago. Between Khabib, Conor, and Tony, I think they're the 3 best lightweights in the world. And if Khabib was to fight Conor, my money would be on Khabib. Conor has shown against Chad Mendes that he is able to be taken down if you can get in there on him. And I could see him doing it. But the Tony and Conor matchup makes me wonder a little bit, because Tony will stand with Conor, which means Conor will be able to land on Tony. But Tony can also take a hell of a punch the same way Nate Diaz can. And that is shown to be Conor's kryptonite. If you can take his punch, because Conor is good for about 8 minutes. 8 to 9 minutes. And if you can get him out of that 8 to 9 minutes, if you can get past that, he starts to fade big time. He did it in both of his fights against Nate Diaz. Well, he's faded earlier than the 8 to 9 minute mark in the first fight against Nate. The second fight against Nate, it was the final minute of the second round. He started fading and Nate came on strong. His boxing match with Floyd Mayweather, he made it through the 3rd round. Okay. Which is 9 minutes in boxing. He came out, and as the very first minute of the 4th round, you could already tell it. He was starting to fade. I mean, his gas tank is good for his style for about 9 minutes. He's at 100%, and then it starts going down. His movement that he has, he's moving at full speed, and then he throws those punches as hard as he does. He drains his gas tank. But I mean, he's a whirlwind. And you're going to have a hard time staying in there with him for those 9 minutes. I mean, pretty much the only person who's been able to do it is Nate Diaz. Max Holloway did it way back in Conor's second fight in the UFC, but Conor was hurt and so was Max. So I would love to see them two do it again, with Max being the current featherweight champion, but I doubt that ever happens either. But yeah, the Tony and Conor fight is interesting, because I think Tony might be able to take Conor's punches. But I don't know if Tony ever gets a chance to fight Conor, to be honest with you. If he wins, I just don't see Conor fighting him. Any fight Conor does is going to do over 1 million pay-per-view buys. If he fights Kevin Lee, he might be able to do, I'm just going to throw a number out there, I'm going to say maybe 1.4 million. Tony Ferguson, they would do 1 million or so, maybe a little more. Any fight with Conor in it is going to do 1 million. The second Nate Diaz fight is the biggest UFC pay-per-view in history. It did 1.6. The third fight with him and Nate is going to do even more than that. So, yeah, I think if I'm just repeating myself here, but if Kevin wins, I think you're going to see Conor defend the belt against Kevin Lee and unify the titles. If Tony wins, I don't think you see Conor defend the belt and unify the titles. I think he will then defend the belt against Nate Diaz and do the third fight. And if he fights Nate, that might be Conor's last fight. He might ride off into the sunset, win or lose. I'm not sure. He says he still enjoys doing what he's doing. But, I mean, he made $100 million fighting Floyd Mayweather. Pocketed. I did the math on it the night of the fight afterwards, and they came up just shy of the Manny Pacquiao-Floyd Mayweather fight. But Conor pocketed that night after taxes and everything about $40 million. So, it's not like he has to fight for money anymore. He will fight as long as he enjoys it, and that's when he'll go on his way. But yeah, those are just off the top of my head. Another fight that I didn't talk about is Beneil Dariush and Evan Dunham. That's opening the pay-per-view. That should be a pretty fun fight. Probably see Dariush win that one. There's a woman's fight on the main card. Two girls who I think are making their debut. They're gonna fight at flyweight, which is gonna be the new division for the women. It's 125 pounds. Will Brooks and Nick Lentz, their fight got pulled off because Nick Lentz got pulled for medical reasons. Pearl Gonzalez is fighting on the prelims against a girl who's making her debut. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what her name is. But yeah, man, that's just off the top of my head. That's UFC 216. I watched Bellator 184 earlier tonight, and that was a pretty good one, man. Darren Caldwell became the new bantamweight champion. He looked good, man. What was the Eduardo Dunas? He trains out of Jose Aldo's camp. He's been the champ over there for a minute. Caldwell, Dunas, however, I think that's how you pronounce his name, man. He just didn't fight with any urgency whatsoever, and Darren Caldwell is young in the sport. He was 9-1, I think, as a pro. Only 10 pro fights. Already getting the fight for the title, and Dundas, however you say his name, he did not push the pace whatsoever. He just let Caldwell fight at his pace, do exactly what he wanted to do, and he just let Caldwell control him with wrestling. I mean, took him down several times, man. I'd say more than half of that fight was happened in a standing back clinch with Caldwell on his back. I'm not sure what two of those judges were watching either. To me, it looked like Caldwell won all 5 rounds. You had one judge score it 5-0 for Caldwell, and the other two scored it 3-2 for Caldwell. I'm not sure which 2 rounds they gave for Eduardo, but yeah, he won the title. And then you had Strauss. What is that dude's first name? Daniel? Is his name Daniel as well? His first name is slipping me for some reason right now. The former featherweight champion for Bellator. He had his first fight back after losing his title back to Little Pitbull. And shit, what what was the Mexican guy's name that he fought tonight? It was the first time I watched him fight. Was it Lopez? Jesus, I can't remember now off the top of my head. But, dude, the Mexican guy, I'm forgetting his damn name for some reason. He, I want to say his last name's Lopez. It's pissing me off that I can't remember his name. He put it on Strauss, man. I mean, he pretty much owned the former featherweight champion for as long as that fight lasted. He choked him out in the third round with a triangle choke, but man, the first 2 rounds, I mean, it was all him. He owned him from start to finish. That was impressive. And Pat Curran made his return over a year. He had been out with an injury. He punctured his lung. His last fight, didn't know if he'd ever fight again, came back and fought. And picked up a win against a Brazilian who I for sure don't remember his name. He had a super weird Portuguese name. But yeah, that was that Bellator 184 was a fun little card. Best fight that I saw was that, pretty sure his first name is Daniel Strauss fight. That was surprising. But yeah, I'm done, man. That's Bellator. That was the Bellator card that happened tonight that I watched, and I gave you my little rundown on UFC 216, just a quick little run through. Wasn't anything super analytical, but I've got Lando Venata probably by knockout. I could see him winning by knockout or losing by decision. Those are the 2 ways I really see that fight playing out. Probably Fabricio Verdum, either by, if the fight stays on the feet the entire time, I'll probably see it in a decision for Verdum. That's Lucas's only shot of winning. I would probably say the first 5 minutes a knockout. But if it touches the ground, it's over. So, like I said earlier, Heart says Derek Lewis. Head says Verdum. Mighty Mouse breaking the record for most title defenses. That's what I'm predicting. And I think Tony Ferguson, man. Tony Ferguson becomes the interim lightweight champ, and then I'm not sure what he does after that. But that's it. I've talked enough. It's 2:25 in the morning. I've been rambling on for God knows how long now. 43 minutes. So, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this bad boy on up. I'm done with y'all. Listen to it. Or don't. Watch the fights or don't. It don't really matter. Alright, man. I'm out. Good night.